Thank you, Mr. Del Duca, and the floor goes to the PC side, Ms. MacLeod.
Thanks very much, Chair. Welcome to Committee, Premier. It's nice to see you here, and I want to thank you for coming.
Pleasure.
I know after the hard-hitting questions in the last round, you'll probably enjoy having a discussion and a conversation about the process with me. In the last couple
Looking
of rounds,
forward to it, Ms. MacLeod.
The last couple of rounds, my colleague, Mr. Fidelli, and my other colleague from the third party, Mr. Tabbins, asked you a number of times about the $40 million cost and the additional dollars over that, and when you were aware of it. And you haven't given us an answer. And so I'm going to attempt another time asking you when you and other cabinet ministers were first aware that the cost of this power plant and its cancellation would be above $40 million.
$40 million was the amount that we were told were the sunk costs, and that was the number that we were using. That was the number that the OPA gave us, and to the best of our knowledge, to the best of my knowledge, that was the cost.
But I guess the question is, I mean, it's been acknowledged by David Livingston, David Lindsay, by Mr. Anderson, Ms. Butler, Shelley Jameson. They all point that everyone from the outset knew it was going to be it was going to be more than $40 million. So at some point, you and your cabinet had to have been aware that this was over $40 million, yet at the same time, you told the public, and including members of this Assembly, in fact, you said it in the Assembly, that it was still only $40 million. And I really think, on behalf of my colleagues in the opposition and the taxpayers of this province, we'd like to know when. When did you find out in a cabinet briefing or from ministry officials or from the OPA that that number was higher? And why didn't you inform the public then? That is a very serious cause of concern for all of us. And I think if you could shed some light on that, we'd very much appreciate it.
So my understanding of the $40 million was that that was the cost. There has been, to this day, right to today, I do not have confidence or clarity that we know exactly what the cost is.
You acknowledged, Premier, earlier today that you knew it was over $40 million, and you've chosen to lowball. So I think in your own statement, and if I may read this, because this is a cause of concern, and I'm sure that members of the public are asking this too. You said in your statement, and the OPA's estimate for the cost to relocate Oakville was between 33 and 136 million. Why were you using a lower number when you knew the cost could explode? Did you just feel it was easier not to tell the public what the truth was?
Ms. MacLeod, the range 33 to 136, actually there's a lower number there than 40 million. There's a high one, absolutely. There was no clarity on what the number was. It was very important to me that not only should the Auditor General look at the Mississauga situation, but also at the Oakville plant.
But you didn't think at any point ever that this was going to be lower than 40 million.
Well,
you knew
I didn't
it was
know.
Going to escalate.
I didn't know. When I was briefed on this document and the range was 33 million to 136 million, I didn't know.
What was the date of that meeting?
The date of this document is March 20th.
And on March 20th, was that the first time that you say that you felt that this was going to be?
That's the day I got these numbers.
Okay, so Shelley Jameson, David Livingston, David Lindsay, Ms. Butler, I believe her name's Joanne, and Mr. Anderson, who testified today, said at the outset you would have known as a member of the cabinet. The question begs to be written. It begs to be asked. Are you not forthcoming with the date and what number you knew this was going to cost because you were under oath?
I'm telling you that $40 million was the number I had until I had a number, the 33 million to 136 million. The Minister of Energy has said that there was a memorandum of understanding that made it clear that there could be other costs associated, but we did not have a number that, I think the term was crystallized, that Colin Anderson used. There wasn't another number that we could point to and say, well, it's either 40 million or it's that number. We didn't have another number. I have since, and I've told you, I was given this document, 33 million to 136 million was the range. There was another number today. The lack of clarity on what those costs were made it, to me, clear that we needed to have the Auditor General look at what the
Premier,
situation
I appreciate
was.
you don't want to answer this question, but it is important.
I am
for us.
answering the question.
The OPA said you were party to the MOU that said it was going to be more than $40 million. I don't think that there is a cabinet minister or a cabinet minister staffer in the country that doesn't think that you would not have read the terms to that MOU and you would have just blindly signed it. So there's either an issue here with you telling the truth to us, or there's a point of incompetence here. And at some points, Premier, we're going to have to get to the bottom of that, because we know, for example, your cabinet, your party, has relied on a number of $40 million. We know that there has been numerous testimony here from very credible witnesses who said you were aware, your cabinet was aware of other costs. So I ask you one more time, given you were party to an MOU that stated that the cost would be over $40 million, given the testimonies of Jameson, Livingston, Lindsay, Butler, and today Anderson, that you knew of the cost at the outset, why did you decide not to share or bother or continually and intentionally leave the wrong number out there?
I did not.
I just respectfully invite you to please use more parliamentary language.
And which
Please
I'll withdraw.
continue. Thank
I'll
you.
withdraw.
I
Premier.
relied on the information that I was given by the OPA. $40 million was the number that we were told. I have since been given documents that suggested that the cost could be between $33 million and $136 million. There has not been a firm cost associated with this plan. Today, we learned another number, and I believe that it is imperative that we wait for the Auditor General to weigh in on the costs of this project.
Just quickly,
because there was no clarity. I think it is very fair to say the memorandum of understanding was available. There was an indication that there could be other costs, and that was in the public realm. But $40 million was the number that we were given, and as recently. Sorry, could I just finish?
I have 2 minutes left.
Could I just finish, Mr. Chair?
One final question. First of all, we know that they said at the OPA that you had seen the MOU, that there were more costs. Shelley Jameson, I'll quote her, said buckets of costs. You're not telling us what the true number was and when you knew it, and that is a problem. And the other thing, and I really want to say this on behalf of taxpayers. Why aren't you taking responsibility for this? Why aren't you apologizing to the people of this province? Why aren't you here today saying, I'm sorry? This is not Dalton McGuinty's mess. It is the Liberal Party of Ontario's mess, and it is your mess too.
Okay. So I have said I regret this situation. I have said it repeatedly. I regret the situation, and I have said that I take responsibility to make sure that this never happens again. I have taken responsibility since the day I came into this office. There was no true number, as you're saying it, because the number has changed. We relied on the information that was given to us by the OPA. We relied on it consistently, and at every juncture, I gave the information that I had been given by the OPA. And as recently as March 20th, the information I was given by the OPA was that the cost could be as low as $33 million. That's the reality, that's the truth as I know it, and that is exactly what I have said today, and I will continue. I will continue to say that.
I just want one point, and then I'll ask a quick question, and I'll leave it to you. And again, I do appreciate you coming in here. First of all, qualifying the truth as you know it every single time, I don't think instills a lot of confidence in the public toward your government. But finally, my last question to you is this. Did you ever meet with Dalton McGuinty about these two plants, either as Premier or as a Cabinet Minister?
No.
Were you ever briefed by his staff, either as Premier or as a Cabinet Minister?
Only insofar as I was signing off on a cabinet walk around, as I said earlier, and there were no numbers associated with
Why did
that
you not
briefing.
read the MOU?
I was relying on information that had been given to me and had been given to our government by the OPA. Continue to rely on it up until today, and the numbers have continued to change.
But that MOU
so there
stated
was
very
no
clearly
absolute,
it was over $40
there was no
million.
absolute number, and I have done everything in my power to open up this process so people could get the answers that they needed.
And so you've always known it was 40. Look, Premier, I just want to say thanks.
I just need to say, I have not known what the number was. I was told it was 40 million. I'm as frustrated
knew it
as
was more
anyone
than
around
40
this
million.
table. I did not know that. I did
But you
not
just said
know
that
what the
today
number
earlier
was.
in your testimony earlier with my colleagues.
I
You have actually
said-
stated on in March that you had a briefing from
Thank you,
officials.
Ms. MacLeod. The floor now passes to Mr.